Imagine this. You go to your local grocery store and walk in to buy some fresh produce. You walk up to the produce section and you see two main areas. You see a 100% natural area and you see a GMO or a genetically modified organism area. Which one would you go to? Most people would go to the 100% natural section because the GMO sections are these disease-ridden crops that get everyone sick all the time, right? What if I told you that wasn't exactly true? Me, I would go to the GMO section because I know the truth about genetically modified organisms. GMOs have been viewed negatively by large parts of society since they came out in the mid-1996 or mid-1990s. This is due largely to a part of lack of information by consumers. Now, whether you know it or not, you may already be consuming genetically modified organisms because according to an article in the Scientific American magazine, about 70% of 70% of U.S. fast food have a genetically modified organism ingredient in them. And I've had plenty of exposure with genetically modified organisms. I grew up on a farm where we grew GM crops, and I had taken a food science class from Kansas State University where we learned about and also researched genetically modified organisms. And today I'm going to share some information with you about the health aspects of it and how they affect the environment. First, I'm just going to throw this out there. Genetically modified organisms that are available to consumers are completely safe. Every GMO product that is on the market and available for consumers to buy has been approved by the USDA or the United States Department of Agriculture as being safe. So why are people still worried about GMOs? This is largely due to the fact that they do not understand the process of what it takes to create a genetically modified organism. In a study of college students' use and knowledge of GMOs posted on Curtis Reviews, it showed that students in physical science majors had stronger safety perceptions and acceptance rates of genetically modified organisms than compared to non-physical science majors. This is because the physical science major students understood the science behind creating a genetically modified food and realized that they were safe. The process of creating a genetically modified organism can be explained quite simply, actually. A scientist goes into the genetic code for an organism and changes a target gene or inserts a gene onto a target gene to create some sort of specific advantage in that organism. These advantages can range widely. They can range anywhere from higher yielding products or higher producing products to drought resistant products, insect resistance, or even tolerant in some species, and the list goes on and on. Now, these advantages or modifications are not harmful to people, and they can even help the environment as well. It has been shown that GMO crops can reduce the impact of farming on the environment. The first way that this genetically modified organisms can reduce the impact is through the reduction of agrochemicals. And when GMOs came out in the mid-1990s, Mark Lannis was against genetically modified organisms. Then in the mid-2000s, he became a GMO activist. This was because he had time to study the science behind GMOs and their effect. In a GMO debate article named GMOs, a Solution or a Problem, Lannis said that GMOs dramatically reduce agrochemicals, insecticides in particular. This shows that genetically modified organisms were able to reduce the amount of total chemicals put on crops, and the lower amount of chemicals that you can put on crops and still have them grow productively, the better it is for the environment. A second genetic variation that can improve the environment is drought-resistant crops. These crops are, as the name implies, made for drier climates where they can conserve water. This water can then be used for human consumption or other purposes in the environment. The second major way that GMOs reduce the impact on the environment is one you may not think of when you think of genetically modified organisms. When chemicals are applied to crops, some sort of vehicle is used. This can range from an ATV to a large sprayer or even a small plane. Now, when these chemicals are not applied, as I just said, then consequently these vehicles are not used as well, which reduces the amount of total greenhouse gases released into the atmosphere. In an article called The Global Impact of Biotech Crops by Grant Brooks and Peter Barfoot, they concluded that the combined biotech crop-related carbon dioxide emissions savings from reduced fuel use and additional soil sequestration were equal to the removal from the road of 8.6 million cars. This is a ton of emissions that have been saved from going into the environment, and it's not a general statistic that you hear from the news. So I hope that you learned that GMOs are not the disease-ridden crops that they are made out to be that you normally hear of, and that they have no negative effects and are actually good for the environment as well. So next time that you go to the grocery store, I hope that you are an informed consumer and go to both areas in that produce section to see